Good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another broadcast of the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm your host, the Minister Jonathan Simmons, and we are broadcasting to you from one of our favorite locations, the Lockdown Living Room. Now, hopefully, the Lockdown Living Room will not have to resume in full throttle. There's always some talk about, with the COVID coming back, that they're talking about trying to lock everything down. So let's just say, no, that will not happen. Let's just hope for the best, guys, and just say, hey, man, please don't lock us down no more. We're not trying to go there. We don't want to be there. We want to be free. But like I said again, the most beautiful place in Atlanta to broadcast the show is from the virtual lockdown living room where yours truly, the minister, is on the scene live and bringing it to you. This week, great show tonight. Lots of stuff happening as always in the world of sports. We'll talk a little bit about the college football playoffs, fair or not fair. Should Ohio State be in the mix or no? What on earth happened to Cincinnati undefeated? So we want to talk about that. We also want to talk about the idea of high school football. We're going to bring in Sam Crenshaw. Is going to be joining us later on the broadcast to talk a little high school football. So we're excited about that. Like I said, guys, we're going to be on and popping. And then at the end, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Falcons, because the big question is should we move on from Matt and Julio? So let's pop up the topic questions for today. There they are, guys. You see them right there. Discussion questions. Number one, did the college football playoffs get it right? Should Ohio State be in the college football playoffs at all? And should the Falcons move on from Matt and Julio Jones right now? That's the big question. Well, to help me talk about this, I'll bring a guy in that knows a lot about all kinds of stuff. He knows about sports, and he also knows about pop culture. He's a great friend of this show, the one and only Brian Jones. Welcome, sir, back to the show.
Always great to be back. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, Brian, look, man, like you said, it's been busy. Another weekend of crazy stuff going on in the world of sports. And obviously, the big question is, did the college football committee get it right? I mean, were they spot on here? Did they do the right thing? The big four, it looks like, not looks like, it is Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. Your thoughts and what has been some of the rumblings you've been hearing out there in the combined world of sports and pop culture?
Well, it's pretty predictable. I don't think the top four teams that were announced this past Sunday were pretty much the top four teams to start with at the beginning of when the college football committee met the first week and determined who were the top four teams back then. So it's no surprise. I think a lot of people, when you talk about what's going on in pop culture and specifically in social media, they're kind of upset that Notre Dame is in the mix and Ohio State as well. Notre Dame because they lost to Clemson 34-10 in the ACC championship, and Ohio State has only played 6 games. And I think one of the biggest things to come out of this is the coaches poll. Now, the coaches poll doesn't matter because it's all about the college football playoff ranking, but Dabo Swinney, Clemson's head coach, had ranked Ohio State number 11, which is the lowest ranking out of any of the coaches that can vote, which was pretty interesting to say the least, considering Clemson plays Ohio State. It'll be a rematch from the semifinal match from last year. So when it comes to the college football playoff committee getting it right, it's all about, and I talked to Kirk Herbstreit about this last month. It's for the college football playoff committee. It's not about finding the four most deserving teams. It's all about finding the four best teams. For Ohio State, they were it's considered one of the four best teams in the country before the season began, before the Big Ten started playing football, before the SEC and ACC got things going. So that's no surprise there. So I think you can make a case for Texas A&M, but Texas A&M lost to Alabama by 4 scores when they played them early in the year. And then Cincinnati is an interesting conversation, but the college football playoff committee doesn't really look at the group of five the same way as the power five. So what this comes down to is, and based on their ruling, they got everything right. But I think what's going to come down to is the playoffs are going to be expanded to 8 teams. I think that's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen. So the college football playoff committee got it right based on their rules, but I think things will change in the next few years.
Yeah, so there's no doubt that everybody's kind of pushing towards this 18 playoff, and I think really to some degree, as much as I didn't think this at the beginning, I do think that that might be the salvation for the bowl system, kind of as we know it. Again, I'm a lot older than you, so I can remember when the bowl system was a lot different. That actually had kind of this weird thing where, you know, depending on what bowl your teams played in and who you played, you could have what happened. And this is going back a long time ago, 40 something years ago, what put Joe Montana on the map that a fifth rank, I think they were fifth rank at the time, Notre Dame knocked off number one undefeated ranked Texas in the Cotton Bowl and up winning a national title. And you used to see that all the time. New Year's Day, the reason why it was so epic was that basically you had four games and you had usually the top 8 or 9 teams all battling in those 4 or 5 major New Year's Eve bowl games, and you had to wait until the end of the night to see who the voters were going to pick to be the national championship. And a couple of times, like what happened here with Georgia Tech in 1990, they were co-champions.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that they were co-champions with Colorado, and
Right.
I think, yeah, and I think what it is now, the bowl games, especially the New Year's Day bowl games, they still matter to some extent. But what you're seeing now is specifically with this year is some of these top players who are eligible for the draft, they are opting out if they're not in the college football playoff or playing a national championship, because, and again, this year's different because for any of these bowl games, they have an opportunity to travel to a place they've never been before. They get a bunch of gifts. You're just not seeing that this year, and the fact that they're not playing for a national championship, these players are going to move on and get ready for the NFL. So I think expanding the playoffs, it will, save some of that moving forward. Again, I don't know when it's going to happen. I do think it does happen because I think, one of the biggest arguments is when it comes to the semifinal games is people don't want to see a blowout. But we've seen blowouts in the past, where there's Michigan State being blown out by Alabama. There have been a couple of blowouts in the semifinals in the past few years. So I don't think that really matters. I think what people want to see is different college football teams in the playoffs because I think ever since they started, there's been like maybe 11 or less different teams that have been in it. We're just seeing the same teams in the college football playoff each year, and while it's understandable because of how they recruit and how they've been coached, you want to see teams like Cincinnati. You want to see teams like maybe a Coastal Carolina try to find their way into the mix. People want to see just new teams try to overtake teams like Alabama or Clemson for that national championship. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I understand, man. At the end of the day, to me, this is what this kind of almost defeats the purpose. And I understand that when the Power Five conferences came about, the whole concept of the BCS, they really kind of snatched control of college football away from the NCAA. So the NCAA really can't kind of muscle in and kind of dictate the things that are going on. And to some degree, the conferences are all about, I don't say they conspire, but to some degree, it's all about their own pockets. That's why you have the Big Five. That's why you have the, what do you call it, the New Year's Six, because that
Yeah.
guarantees those big conferences to have a big payday. So to me, Ohio State, the only problem I have with Ohio State is this, and really with the Big Ten in general, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, they both basically tried to paint the SEC as the greedy guys just playing football at the risk of the health of the student athletes. And then once they saw the traction that the SEC games were getting, then the Big Ten said, hey, we want to be in it because they started to realize we might lose out from playing in the college football playoffs. And of course, the Pac-12 follows sooner right after that. But so to me, my problem is, I believe Ohio State's record was either 6-0 or 7-0, and to me, that's not fair to put them ahead of a team like Cincinnati that went, I think, 9 or 10-0, or even ahead of a team like A&M that was 8-1 in the SEC. So that's the problem I have with really Ohio State. Notre Dame, I actually have no problem. I know a lot of people are kind of in their feelings over Notre Dame, but the realities are, and granted, Trevor Lawrence wasn't there, but you can only play what's in front of you. And they did beat Clemson in overtime. Now, they got the brakes beat off from the ACC championship game, but you had to figure that a two-time champion with their star players back, seeking all kind of revenge, would try to lay the wood to them, and they did. I mean, but Notre Dame has one loss, and their one loss is to the number one team, the number two team in the country. So they have to go,
Yeah,
like it or not.
Notre Dame. I understand that what happened in the ACC championship game is going to turn fans off of them, but they're a really good football team, and
They
they've
are.
been a good football team for the last few years. I think Brian Kelly is a really good coach. He came from Cincinnati, so I do think they deserve to get in. And for Ohio State, and you're right, they were 6-0, and Big Ten had to change the rules to where they had to play in the conference championship because the original rule was if a team hasn't played 6 games, they can't qualify to play in the conference championship. But because of Ohio State beating Indiana, who a lot of teams or a lot of college football fans and other teams like, um, they decided to change the rules a bit and have Ohio State playing the Big Ten conference championship game. So for Ohio State, I kind of understand where people are coming from in terms of not wanting them in there, and I think the Big Ten and the Pac-12 they made a decision before seeing how everything played out in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. They decided to postpone fall sports, specifically football, back in July and not waiting for all the other conferences to see what they'll do. But when the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 decided we're going to play,
Right.
then the Big 10 and the Pac 12 is like, well, wait a minute, if they're playing and they're having very little issues, then why can't we? So I think this just has to do with more of the Big 10 just making a decision really quick and then deciding we got to get back on this in order to be considered in the college football playoffs. So for Ohio State, you know, even though they're a really good football team, I think because of everything that happened, they probably just found a way to get in without really deserving to be in, even
Right.
though they're undefeated. But again, it just goes back to Dabo Sweeney and other coaches not putting them in the top four in their coaches poll. They just haven't played enough games. And I understand that these other teams that they had scheduled against have opted out or couldn't play because of the COVID. The reality of it is, had the Big Ten not decided to postpone the season and then decided to unpostpone it, they wouldn't be in this situation.
Right, and that's really the big thing for me is that they made a decision, and like I said, to some degree threw some shade and did the Pac-12 on the
Mhm.
SEC again, making it seem like it was all about the money, which was for all these guys. And what I told people early on, I'm not trying to say the SEC schools couldn't afford not to have the season, but they had put a lot of investment in there, and especially the Pac-12, you talk to like Stanford, some of these guys has huge endowments. So whether they played a one season or not, it really wouldn't have broken the bank at the end of the day. So all I know is, man, it's just to me, Ohio State shouldn't have been there. That's really the bottom line. They just should not have been in there. To me, it should have been Cincinnati who went 9 or 10-0. And also the other thing too, I saw one of the bowls. They had the audacity to. I understand that Coastal Carolina is not, they're not necessarily the biggest and baddest team in the world, but the idea of putting those guys in against Liberty. Now, I know Liberty had a good season, but to me, they should have found another way to really kind of showcase Coastal Carolina. To me personally, but that's just me talking.
For Coastal Carolina, they've always been a good squad. This goes back to 2015 when they were in the Big South Conference, which is the same conference Kennesaw State is in
Kennesaw State,
now.
that's
And
right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and at the time that was Kennesaw State's first year, and Coastal Carolina was the favorite. They had a bunch of talented players, and I think I have to look back on this, but I think Josh Norman went to Coastal Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. But
I got to check
uh,
that. Might be.
yeah, and at that time they were the favorites, and Coastal Carolina just blew past Kennesaw State, and then a couple years later, and they move up to the Sun Belt, and Kennesaw State takes over virtually the Big South. But they have just been a very good program. I would have loved to see them in a New Year's Day bowl, if not like possibly in
Citrus Bowl, something, man. I mean, show
yeah,
some love. Golly.
exactly, because they beat BYU on their home field, so
Right.
they
Come on,
and
man.
And again, Liberty, another
All right,
great
Brian,
team.
hold on one second. Stop right there. We gotta go to a hard break because again, this
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know, but this show is also being broadcast through audio only on WIGO AM 1570 Atlanta's Incredible Radio. Thanks for those of you who are listening here. We'll be back with more of the Real Talk Sports Show, but we got to take a break because we got some people to help pay the bills. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go nowhere. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
My man, JB Smooth. I got to show some mad appreciation for all those guys that jumped on there on the Real Talk Sports Show. We actually got a chance to do that when they had the college football championship here in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and they had ESPN a big night called putting us on the blue carpet, and it was a unfortunately, unseasonably record-breaking cold night where the temperature here in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, dropped to 9 degrees. So we're out there on the blue carpet, turning blue.
Yeah.
It was so cold out there. But anyway, listen, again, thanks to everybody that's come back here. We want to give a big shout out to all those of you who are watching us here on various platforms. But we want to give also a big shout out to those of you who are listening either on the podcast, on the replay on Periscope, or on demand on YouTube. Mad props and shout outs to you. So yeah, Brian, just to finish up, it's just, I think people want fairness. People are looking at the way things lined up, and it just looks like Ohio State basically kind of got a pre-entry card to get in, and that's kind of not what the college football championship playoffs are supposed to be about. It's supposed to avoid that type of shenanigans where you basically have teams that got there by merit, what you saw on the field, passed the eye test, and even their star quarterback, Justin Fields, didn't really pass the eye test himself. Against Indiana, he was at best average, 3 interceptions, didn't really have one of his better games, probably one of his worst games in his college career against a real opponent, and just made people think, yeah, they won, but are they really a top 5 team?
Yeah, Justin Fields, one of the biggest knocks on him, he's been a really good player at Ohio State, but I think when it comes to the big games, he has struggled. You look at the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern. Now, Pat Fitzgerald is a great head coach. I know he's going to be getting some phone calls from NFL teams, and he had his guys ready. That defense really just frustrated Fields. He had some turnovers, but because of the talent and the depth that Ohio State has, they were good enough to beat a Northwestern team. And when it comes to this matchup against Ohio State and Clemson, I get it. It's Justin Fields versus Trevor Lawrence, 2 top 5 picks in the NFL draft. So I think the college football playoff, I think they looked into that as well. And I know that when it comes to the group of 5 conferences, when you talk about Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati, not every team, not every schedule is built the same. But the fact of the matter is, going undefeated in Division I football, no matter if it's the Sun Belt or the American Conference or Conference USA, it's still an accomplishment. And I think what it comes down to is, again, fans want to see something different.
Right.
They don't believe that Ohio State deserves to be in. And I know they want to put the 4 best teams in, but I think when you determining the best teams, you also have to look who are the most deserving, who has played a full season. So all that comes into play, and hopefully, whether it's a couple years down the road or 5 years down the road, the playoffs get expanded to where you see a different set of teams each and every year. Now, there will be some teams like Alabama who are likely going to be in every year, and Alabama will probably win the entire college football playoff when it's all said and done. But you want to see teams like Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati be in the mix, whether it's next year or the year after that, or you just want to see just new, young teams, exciting teams that fans can get behind. So hopefully, the NCAA, these conferences can get together and try to determine what can we do to make the college football playoff better. How can we expand it to make it fair? And hopefully, they get something done here really soon.
No doubt. And listen, guys, if you want to join the conversation, we're going to open up the studio to you. You can just copy and paste the link into your phone, or you can only be on a computer and your laptop, and you actually can join the show. It's kind of our way of doing calling callers. And here's how it works. When you click it on, it operates just like Zoom. You have the option to come in with audio only, which will be like a phone call. Or if you're feeling kind of bold and froggy, you can kind of come on with the whole video just like on Zoom, and we'll bring you on part of the broadcast, and you can make your comments to what you think about the fairness of college football. As we wait for our next guest of the evening, Mr. Sam Crenshaw, to join us, hopefully talk, speaking of playoffs, about high school football playoffs, because that's coming up too, Bryant, unbelievably this weekend.
Yeah, it is, and I do have a chance to catch up a little bit on high school football. My team, Walton High School, reached the second round of the playoffs, lost to Colquitt County, who lost in the third round to Norcross. So I'm really curious to see how the championships play out. I think Warner Robins in 6A should be really interesting to see if they can win again. They're football team rich in tradition. I think the 7A matchup between Collins Hill and Grayson, that's going to be really interesting. I think with 7A, there's just so much parity that you don't know who's going to end up in the state championship. Grayson has been good all year, and their quarterback's one of the best in the country. And then Collins Hill has just been a consistent team all season long, and it's just that battle of Gwinnett County. So I'm really curious to see Buford's back in the state championship game. Fitzgerald, a team down in South Georgia, they look like they can win. But I think all eyes are going to be on Prince Avenue Christian and Brock Vandegrift, who's the 5-star recruit going to Georgia next year, has played really well in the playoffs. He can pretty much do everything. So there's going to be high expectations for him. He's from that Athens area. So it's going to be a good weekend of state championship high school football.
Well, I tell you, we want to bring somebody that has the inside of exactly what's going on GXA. He is a legendary broadcaster here in the Atlanta metro area, and I dare say even around the country. He is one of the voices behind the Georgia Public Broadcasting annual telecast of high school football, of course, the high school football championships. He'll be at Mercedes-Benz or somewhere nearby, I believe. Also on 92.9 The Game, the one and only Sam Crenshaw is in the building. Sam, welcome back, sir.
I was great to be with the great. I couldn't make it back home. I got me a spot. I said, let me pull over here and get with, because it's Christmas week. I'm out doing what folks do, and I got a few more loose ends to tie up. But I wanted to make sure and spend some time with you. How's your week, first of all? How are you?
Well, I tell you, man, it's it's good to be alive, Sam. I'm now of that age where I was right on the cusp of what they call be careful for COVID. But thank the Lord, we just, all of us, I think, have to be careful in this day and time. And we thank God that that's so far so good with me and my household. And to be very candid, as much as I enjoy covering high school football, the Friday night lights were kind of starting to wear on the kids. So I'm glad to have passed the ball on to you, as you've taken us to some really exciting playoffs thus far. Big shout out, as you know, to all the guys here on the South Side. Clayton County put in, I think, 5 or 6 teams. And, some of the big teams from the county. Matter of fact, a big surprise, I think, was the Riverdale Raiders. Were you able to get a glimpse of one of their games, Sam?
Yeah, was able to get with there. And then Coach Hackney, our Region Coach of the Year. Congratulations to him. Tremendous job in his second tour of duty there. I talked with him about it. He says, man, when I was here before, we barely had a weight room. I'm back now. Riverdale has a weight room. Some things are so different for him now at the school there. And the young people got so excited after getting off to a little bit of a bumpy start. They came out and really went out and won games. They had a little period there where they went about 3 weeks without playing a game, but they
Right.
came out of that playing so well and with a lot of resolve. And It was great to see them keep winning week after week after week, not surrendering a single point to a regional opponent. Just a remarkable job. And the community got on fire. The community got behind the team. It was really great to see how that happened. Of course, Riverdale is a great tradition of football from years ago. And so it was great to see him bringing back and restoring some of that. Some of those young people are looking to go on and play at the collegiate level, but they're fairly young team, so a lot of them will be back next year.
Well, funny you mentioned that. Really, it was a lot of excitement here on the South Side. We had a couple of teams that really, especially in the first half of the season, made quite a bit of noise. Lovejoy, as always, a perennial power, had a good season. We had Jonesboro run off a 5 or 6 game winning streak to start the season before I think the COVID scheduling them playing 3 games in 14 days really kind of took a lot of starch out of their season, but certainly kudos to them. Probably to me, played one of the more exciting games that I covered. Went on the road to Tri-Cities, was down by 10 with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then scored the winning touchdown with about 40 seconds left to play in the game to eke out a 24-20 victory against a very good Tri-Cities team. So yeah, I really have a happy life down here in Clayton County, as so many teams here did well, and even on the South Side did very, very well. Certainly, we know the legendary Westlake team did extremely well. And matter of fact, we want to once again get condolences to the entire Westlake family with the loss of their principal and his wife. But they acquitted themselves very, very well. And also a team I hadn't known much about as far as football, Sam, was Langston Hughes. Saw them against Morrow. They were top team.
They were out there just flying below the radar. A lot of attention was on Westlake. People weren't paying attention to the Langston Hughes team. They got my attention the first week. They beat Harrison. They beat the defending state champion to kick off the season. I'm like, okay, I'm watching out for these guys. And they had a tremendous, tremendous season. Some great stories on the South Side. There were some really great stories on the South Side this year, and I was really proud of that. You talked about Lovejoy. They went up to Gwinnett County and took that upset win over North Gwinnett. Looked so strong. I saw them the next week, and they outrun Tucker. Tucker could not keep up with them. So it was great to see them play great football. Great work by the coaches and administrations at those schools to get the young folks the kind of support they need in the community to get excited and get behind those programs.
And there was a lot of excitement. I will admit, Sam, it was a little scary for me at the beginning because the county, as you know, had assigned us to cover all the games at Terra Stadium. And they said the reason why it's important that you do the live stream video is because, quote unquote, people won't be at the game. So about the second game, I was like, well, who are all these people? Why is that band out there? So, again, the community was so energized with the outstanding play that they really started to come out and support the team. So, again, this was great to kind of see that. Well, let's get to the crux of the matter. This weekend, huge weekend for high school football. All the playoffs are going on. Who are some of the teams, Sam, that we should really kind of have our eyeball on as we head into this championship weekend?
Wow, you've had a lot of them, and Brian just mentioned one with Vander Griffin, the team at Prince Avenue. I watched them play Friday night over at Wesley, and had a chance to spend a little time talking with his dad, who was the coach of the team there at Prince Avenue. And he talked about how he's this kid that just has his work ethic and has had it all along. I watched them pregame warmups, and they just took a football and threw it about 50 yards, and he raced downfield and he caught it. I said, oh, he catches them too. They said, well, it's his ninth grade season. He was receiver. We had a quarterback that was already pretty good. That was his starter. He played wide out. So he got about 35 balls, about 6, 7 touchdowns. I said, well, he said, if he didn't have this brace on his knee, he'd be the punter. He could punt the ball and average about 50 yards. He's one of those kind of kids. He's one of those guys who just does everything. When I think about him, I think about a kid I think about a guy I watched years ago at Parkview named Jeff Rancourt, who ended up playing for the Braves. He was one of them guys that whatever you sent him out there to do, he was going to do it, be the best at it. And that's what Vandergrift reminds me of in seeing him. And everybody was watching for him last week to see how he would perform. And he's tough, too. He don't mind dipping that shoulder around the goal line to get in for a touchdown. The first touchdown tonight, he ran in. He's a good-sized guy. Brian, I don't know about you. I mean, a lot of people question the fact that he's played at the single-A level, and we've seen single A players do well in this state. We have a guy named Herschel Walker who was at Johnson County. We have a guy named Garrison Hurst who was at Lincoln County. So but that's running backs. This is quarterbacks. This is different, and a different day and age when quarterbacks are expected to do something else. back then all the quarterbacks did was turn around and hand the ball off. The quarterbacks are expected to do a lot more, especially if he's going to go to this level. So I don't know what your thoughts are of him and the level of competition that he's had. He's blown away the competition he's faced, but, is he ready for what he's going to face after this year?
Well, I'm going to say this before I go to a break. Sam, we're on radio as well, so we got a hard break coming up here that we got to do a little housekeeping. Also, we got to get ready for our community outreach segment. So it's going to be a big night. And if you want to hear the rest of it, you know how it is. You can't go anywhere. Keep it locked right here on the Real Talk Sports Show as we broadcast on every portal possible, including 1570 Atlanta's Incredible Radio, WIGO AM, The Light. Keep it locked right here. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net. Nothing better than the sound of diesel in the morning. And what better place to get high horsepower diesel than the all-new 2020 Ford F-250, now with 475 horsepower and over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. You know where to get it? From me, the minister, Jonathan Simmons at Allen Vigil Ford Commercial Sales. Because you know why? I'm the commercial truck guy in a shirt and tie. Alrighty, we're back here. You're listening to the Real Talk Sports Show and watching the Real Talk Sports Show on multiple channels and portals. And we always thank God for all those of you who are watching us and listening to us. And again, big shout out to those who are watching on the replay on Periscope, and also those who are watching on demand on a replay on YouTube as well. And also to you new watchers on Twitch, we thank God for all those of you who are watching as well. Well, Sam, here's what I'm going to do. I want to get one more pick from you, and then we want to shift to our community outreach segment. I believe you might know the young lady who we're going to bring on, but we're going to keep it a surprise for a second. One last team we should be watching for in the high school football playoffs here in Georgia.
Of course, Brian already talked about the 7A title game, and we know we're getting Grayson a lot of star power in that game. Sam Horn is a fantastic quarterback. He has a great target to go to in Travis Hunter, talking about for Collins Hill. So watch for them. They're the team that just refuses to lose. And they had a very challenging season schedule to start the season. Collins Hill could go out there and do what they need to do. They got to play a game, and as basically you always hear, cut down your errors and don't make any mistakes, and don't give Grayson any extra opportunities. But let's see how that game goes. Another game I'm watching, though, is Marist. And a lot of people haven't spoken about them. They're in a 4A champion. They have the winningest active coach in the state of Georgia, and Alan Chadwick. A lot of people say his offense is boring. It puts you to sleep. And that's what happens with his that's what he runs. We go up against Jefferson, and the Dragons are undefeated as well. They're in that 5A 4A championship game. Watch out for those teams. And a very special story on the sideline for Jefferson, Devon Gales, the young man who was paralyzed in the game when Southern University played at University of Georgia, had a severe injury. He is an assistant coach with that team. And so he lives now outside of Athens in Jefferson, and he is able to work as a coach with that football team up at Jefferson. So I'm sure when the games are televised, you will get a chance to get a look at him during those games. So we watch for them. Cartersville, obviously, we know what you get, and you got Carlos Del Rio, who's he's been at McEachern, Grayson, now in Cartersville. So
see what Sam is really saying, guys, is that you just need to turn into put your channel to Georgia Public Broadcasting all day and just watch all the games. That's really what he's saying. He's doing a shameless plug. So I appreciate it.
That's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Don't forget about the girls' flag.
See,
girls flag semifinals are tomorrow at the Benz. They're going to the Benz. The boys are all going over to Georgia State, but the girls are going to the Benz tomorrow for their semifinals.
Whoa. Well, see, Brian, this is what I like about a true pro with Sam. See, Sam creates the perfect segue because our next guest herself was a great high school and college two-sport athletes. She is a beauty pageant winner, and now she, as she always has been doing, is giving a lot of her time to her philanthropy. I'm talking about the queen herself, Miss LaTresa Doleman. Welcome to our show.
Oh my goodness!
Hi.
Hey, the queen is back, boys.
Hey,
I'm feeling some kind of way.
Hi,
How you doing?
Sam.
How you doing?
Yeah, how are you?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. And hello, Brian.
Hey, how are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Hi, Jonathan.
What's going
Thank you
on?
for having me.
I'm telling you, it's good to have you back. Now, I love you guys dearly, but I just would rather let the viewers see the lovely queen herself in a broader screen. Oh, there she is, right there. Praise the Lord. Exquisite. Well, listen, as always, it is a great pleasure to have you on the show. For those of you who are just kind of tuning in, she has been very kind from time to time to be like kind of our correspondent. She's covered some Hawks games for us. She's been on the show. But there's more than just this beautiful face that you see. A athlete, I believe, two sports, right? Volleyball and basketball?
In college, I was two sports. In high school, I did like 3.5. Yes.
So you were like a real athlete. Like, not that one sport thing for you. You did it all.
Yeah, I played just about every sport I could.
And so it's interesting because, now fast forward, life of beauty pageants, you won multiple pageants. You're now, I guess they changed the name of the actual title now. Is it called, do I have it right? Ms. America International. Do I have it right?
Yes, that is my title.
There you go. And you are right now the queen.
I
for
am.
real.
Yes.
You are holding the crown.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. So, but also you got a lot. There it is, right there, guys, up close and personal. That's a grown. Hey, Sam, that's a grown woman's crown right there.
I'm telling you, man. No doubt. No
Yes,
doubt.
sir. Well, one of the reasons why we want to bring her on is that besides all of that beauty and certainly athletic talent, she's channeled that afterwards to really do a lot in the community. And right now, I think the two big things that she's really focused on is the brain cancer tumor awareness. Of course, her late husband, Chris, suffered from that. And she has really been on the vanguard of really making sure that people are aware. And so for you, I know obviously it's a labor of love, but kind of what should people kind of really know about this, and why should they be more cognizant? Because we have all these different things going on, but why should they be more aware of this?
A lot of people should be more aware of this because there are about 87,000 people a year that actually get diagnosed with a brain tumor. And some of them are cancerous, some of them are not, but you will be surprised with how many people get diagnosed with brain tumors each year. And of course, I had never heard of it until my husband got diagnosed with a brain tumor in January of 2018. And then our worlds changed forever. And so I've done a lot of research, and I'm just really shocked with how many people have brain tumors. And I've even met so many people after that have had brain tumors. So a lot of people just need to know about the symptoms and just be aware. And when something feels weird, make sure you go to the hospital and get a CAT scan or also an MRI.
And so that was really my next question. And what are some of the symptoms that they're telling you to be on a lookout for, so that people watching and say, okay, well, these are some of the things that are kind of warning signs that maybe I should get checked up?
One of the number one symptoms that I hear about are headaches. So headaches is a symptom, dizziness. My husband actually did not have that. He had stroke-like symptoms. So whenever you also have stroke-like symptoms, that is also the case. But the main one is headaches. A lot of people do have headaches or dizziness, blurry vision with their eyes, because some of the brain tumor placement, it causes problems with your vision. So it may be things that you don't know about. And then another large one is having seizures. So whenever someone is having seizures, you always want to definitely check to make sure that it's not from a brain tumor, because a lot of brain tumors do cause seizures.
Well, I mean, that's really powerful. And when you look at this, and I know, Sam, for me, when I think about cancers of the brain and you associate with athletes, my first thing started thinking about, okay, it was just somehow related to CTE, but based on what LaTresa is telling us, it really got nothing to do with that. I mean, it's something that can strike anybody, and you just have to be aware.
It's very true, and my goodness, my colleague for many years, 11 Alive, Fred Khalil, suffered and had cysts on the brain, and
Wow.
it's something that kind of came on for a while, and that's how people really got to know me in this market, because for a number of months he couldn't be on, and they just threw me out there. And if I you stay on, I was on like every day, until he was able to come back. And even then, he was being cautious. And as I watch him now, he's 46. Some things that he used to do without even thinking twice about it, you can tell he thinks about it. He thinks a little bit about it before he says some things. But I'm thankful that his was diagnosed at a stage when everything could be, treated, and he's been able to maintain very well, and very proud of that. But LaTresa, I know it's something some people may have symptoms and may be ignoring them, and thankfully you are here to help give a warning sign, to watch for those symptoms, and don't let them go untreated or undiagnosed.
Yes, because early detection, as we know, with a lot of different things, early detection is key. So I always tell people, if you're having symptoms or you're feeling a strange way, get checked out. It is so important. And the earlier you can get the detection, if you do have a brain tumor, typically the better the situation is.
Now, do you also have some other things that you're involved in as well? Is there maybe one or two other agencies, organizations that you would also encourage people to say, hey, listen, here's some things you can be involved with?
Oh, definitely. Well, in regards to the brain tumors, I am an ambassador for the National Brain Tumor Society. They are really a wonderful organization. I really wish that I had a connection with them while my husband and I were going through what we were going through. But I'm thankful that I have a great relationship with them now, and I'm able to help other people that are going through what we went through, and just able to help other people. So the National Brain Tumor Society is a huge one. And then I also have my own nonprofit organization called Making a Better Me. And I started it in 2014. And my nonprofit is to help youth. And as all of us here, we love sports. I know that when I was growing up, I was very blessed to where my parents were able to pay for me to go to private school. Also, they paid for me to play AAU basketball, AAU volleyball. And I feel that sports really made the difference in my life. And I know that a lot of kids are not able to have those same opportunities because of finances. And so our nonprofit is going to help cover costs, because I really think that it is so important for our youth to be able to play sports. But also, even if they want to learn how to play the piano, or if they want to draw, just something where they can have extracurricular activities and be able to have an outlet from school and the different things that they go through. And we will also have mentors. We're doing a code camp, just all kind of things about sports, volunteerism, education, just helping our youth move forward. And that's what it's all about. Our youth are our future. And so you know how much I love our kids and I love our youth, and just anything that I can do. So I'm really honored, and I love that I have this nonprofit organization to help make a difference.
It's interesting. You got two tracks running. You mentioned about how important it is for kids to have things to do and how to challenge their mind. And then the other thing you mentioned, which kind of hit me when you were talking about the brain tumor, you said something. You said it would have been great had you been able to connect with them, while you guys were going through it. What would some of the things that you would suggest to people, or just kind of go over with people just a little bit of some of the challenges of being a caretaker and having your situation kind of change so suddenly with something that you weren't familiar with? What were some of the people you had, some people that you could reach out to? Kind of how'd you help work your way through it?
Well, honestly, the main thing that I did, I prayed. I
Amen.
prayed. I was a praying woman. I pleaded the blood of Jesus over my husband every single day, multiple times a day. I prayed and asked God to give me strength. And I did a lot of research because, again, I had never heard of brain tumors. I had no clue what to expect. And so I immediately went online to do research. I was looking at all types of different ways that I could help, and just asking for guidance from the Lord, from prayer, and talking to the doctors and nurses, asking questions. I asked a lot of questions, and we were able to get through it. We both were positive. I think that also made a big difference. And like I said, the prayer was really powerful. There was a lot of people praying for my husband, and he was also positive. And when you're a caregiver, when you love someone, you put them first. And so even though being a caregiver is very tough, and I talk to some people who just feel that they're not cut out for it, and, they compare themselves to me, and I say, well, everybody's different. A lot of the doctors and nurses, they all told me, you really should be a nurse. You're a natural at this, and it's like, yeah, thank you. But, when you love someone, you want the best for them. And so for me, even though being a caregiver is very tough, it was easy for me to do it because I loved caring for my husband and helping him get better. And there's nothing that I wouldn't have done to help him. So, but with the National Brain Tumor Society, one of the things that I love that they offer that I did not know about at the time, they have conversations. They're called Brain Tumor Conversations. They have them the third Sunday of every month. And it's a group of us, and we get on the phone. There are patients that are going through glioblastoma or different brain tumors. Their caregivers get on the call. They ask questions. Everybody's able to just say, well, hey, I tried this. This may work. Or, I'm having this symptom. And so it's an outlet for caregivers and for patients to ask questions. And so they also know that they're not alone. And that's the main thing when you're going through, is just to know that you're not alone, that, hey, there's people out here to help you. And the National Brain Tumor Society also puts millions of dollars into research. And another great thing is that the research is really looking promising. So I know in my heart that we will find a cure. There was unfortunately not a cure found, before my husband passed away from it. But I definitely am going to continue to work to make sure that other families don't have to go through what we went through. So.
Well, that's very, very powerful. I'm just going to put up the 3 things or 4 things you mentioned to help anyone get through difficult times. You talked about prayer, being positive, perseverance, and the big L word, love. Well, listen, guys, we want to show you the love. We also have to show our sponsors the love. We're on a heartbreak here at the radio station. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Real Talk Sports Show, watching the Real Talk Sports Show, and even on the replay, you got the Real Talk Sports Show here on WIGO 1570, Atlanta's Incredible Radio, and on realtalksports.net. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net. All right, big shout out and thanks to Allen Vigil Ford and all the people there. I got to do one thing. I do a little shameless plug. I'm actually a sales consultant and commercial account manager at Allen Vigil Ford. So if you need a vehicle for yourself, your family members, or for your business, you know to call the minister himself. You can call me. There's a cell phone on the bottom right there, 678-410-9833. And I'd love to be your own personal automobile concierge. And that's a wrap. Well, listen, again, we appreciate everybody who has been watching us, who's been joining us here on WIGO 1570, listening in. And we're very, very thankful to our community outreach spotlight with the Queen herself. And we are very, very appreciative of her. And so we always do something. When anybody comes on the show, we always make sure that at the end of their segment that they tell people where they can be found, website, social media. So as we say, the floor is yours.
Why, thank you. My social media, my personal one is on Instagram, Twitter, at It's LaTresa, ITSLATRESA. And also my pageants queen page is at Ms. America International. That's MS America International 2020.
Well, there you go, guys. That is all the information right there. And we have some breaking news. The Queen will be joining us more often here on the Real Talk Sports Show. So for you guys that are watchers, yes, I will finally have some beauty to go along with all of these OGs and fellas that come on. So the Queen will be joining us. We look forward to having her be an integral part of our show, not only with our community outreach segment, but also talk a little basketball and football, because she's kind of partial to two teams in the NFC North, the Lions and the Vikings.
Woo!
So we look forward to having the Queen back out with us. LaTresa, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Show people one more time while we've been calling you the Queen. Show us that grown woman crown one more time if you have it handy. I'll get you guys a close-up right here. Hold on a second.
Look at that. Jeez,
Bam!
look at that.
That's what you get when you're grown and beautiful. Look at that.
All right,
Ooh,
now. Look at that.
That's the real thing right there. Well, listen, we appreciate you again. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you back next week and now being a part of the regular Real Talk Sports Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was such a wonderful time being here with you guys. I missed you so. Have a Merry Christmas.
All right. Take it easy.
Happy
God
holidays.
bless.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
We had the Queen on, boys.
Royalty.
Too shabby.
Royalty.
Royalty in the building.
You know what I mean?
I tell you, man.
Brian, I don't know last time you've been on the show with royalty, man.
We're going to do it big. And speaking of doing it big, now, you know, if we're going to talk sports we always end our segment with our Atlanta Falcons. And there's only one man that has the inside scoop on our Atlanta Falcons. He's the embedded beat writer for the AJC Sports. He is the guy, if you go to any press conference, even ESPN defers to him to get the very first question. He's also a great scholar, a great teacher, and a Esquire par excellence. You know I'm talking about, the one and only D. Orlando Ledbetter is back in the building. D. Led, what's up, man?
Hey, Mr. Simmons, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show. And I see Brian and my man Sam.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Matter of fact, hang on a second. I got somebody in the studio here. I don't think she's left. I want her to say hello to you. She just left. We had the lovely Miss LaTresa Doleman on, widow, of course, of Chris Doleman, and doing great things here. And she was our community outreach segment as we talked about, her involvement in a brain cancer, tumor awareness. So we appreciate her, and she will now be a integral part of the Real Talk Sports Show.
Well, awesome. I was my pleasure and honor to do some stories on Chris when he was going into the Hall of Fame. So
that's right.
Yeah, it was good. Sad situation, but yeah, one of the good guys in the old football game.
No doubt. Well, Sam, one of the things, D, one of the things that we put up here, I'm gonna put this question back up here, was the last question we had. Let me see if I can find it here. And it was there was some shots over the bow. And our last question was, hey, should the Falcons move on from Matt Ryan and Julio Jones right now? And Arthur Blank, I don't know if he said it per se, but there was some statements that he said he would leave it up to the GM to whether they should go or not to go. What have you been hearing from Mr. Blank and the executive team over there?
Well, I mean, folks could go to AJC.com. I got interview today with Rich McKay, and we got most of that up. The rest of it's coming out in the Bowtie Chronicles podcast in the morning. The new GM is getting Julio and Matt Ryan. I think there's been a change of foot from the original position that Blank stated. They want to hear the new GM's plan for Julio and Matt Ryan. Because they can't cut them. So there's no way. They want to start over from ground zero and rebuild. They know what that means. So the alternative is to move forward with the high-priced core players that they have. So anybody wishing for a full reboot, that's not going to happen.
Well, what do you think are some of the things that can be done with this team? I mean, we talk about this each week. To me, one of the things, and Sam, you've been around, you've seen it. Brian, even you're not as old as us, but I mean, you've been around seeing it. To me, the Falcons seem to be missing the clutch gene. I've never seen a team when money's on the line, they just can't seem to get it done. I mean, now, D-Led, is it something in the coaching? I mean, what am I missing here?
No, Reverend, what you're missing here is that the talent level's not that high. They're able to come out and play well for parts of a game, but as far as sustaining that high level of play over 4 quarters, they're not good enough to do it. I'm just sorry, that's the truth. So you got to get better players in here, or you got to get the players that are in here better. At the end of the day, the cream rises to the top. And you're playing the Bucks close, but you're down to your 6th cornerback who has no business on Antonio Brown. So you get beat because they got better players. So I mean, if you keep seeing it, we've been seeing it. So it's 4 times. Okay, they didn't fall on the ball in Dallas, but I mean they gave up a 27-point lead because the other team's better than you. Same thing in Chicago. You can't cover Nick Foles. You make Nick Foles look like Johnny Unitas. You see, he ain't done nothing since. And I can keep going. I'm sorry, but I gotta tell people the truth. I gotta tell people the truth.
Oh man!
I'm talking to
D-Led is Christmas week. You put lumps of coal in people's stockings and all kind of carrying on, man.
We gotta tell them the truth, Sam. They 4-10. They're getting ready to get ran out of Kansas City, and maybe they'll cover Antonio Brown with somebody else when they go down to Tampa Bay. But I mean, we gotta tell the people the truth. Ain't no sense us making this like, they just 2 steps away from the Super Bowl. Is it? It's not. It's not. We gotta tell the people what we see.
Well, speaking of what we see, there are people that can't see us that is listening, and they're only on to the 9 o'clock hour. So we have to sign off now to the folks that are listening to WIGO 1570 Atlanta's Incredible Radio. As we always do, we appreciate each and every one of you who listen to us here, either live or via the podcast on WIGOAM.com or on RealTalkSports.net. Big shout out to our guy behind the screen, Minister Eli Smith. He is a legendary gospel voice here. Used to be on YZE for years, a legendary gospel station. Now with WIGO, serves as the producer of the Real Talk Sports Show. Big shout out to him. And if you love gospel music, you can check him out Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with the exception of Wednesdays, for the Eli Smith Show. Great gospel music from the past and from today. So check them out right there. All right, everybody, as we do each and every night when we let you go at WIGO, God bless you and good night. All right. Hey, social media, don't go anywhere. We're still here. I had to do make sure we had to do the housekeeping here for the radio guys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is. I mean, it's really hard for me. I try to be negative because the guys from Atlanta Bird Gang, shout out to you, Falcons 2.0, the Bird Gang group, all these guys let me share this show on their group pages. So I don't want to come on, and neither is D-Led or any of us. We don't want to come on and just lambaste the Falcons, but y'all know they look terrible. I mean, it really, I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, and Coach Raheem is he's getting an interview. We were able to break that story today. He's interviewed as one of the coaching candidates. And I mean, you got to really look at the job he's done. With no pass rush. He doesn't have one. It didn't work out. So he's blitzing, and Tampa Bay caught on to him last week and they started blocking it and throwing the quick screens and beating it. But give him, he's not playing guys just because he drafted him. They cut Jordan Miller today. He was a 5th round pick. And they're looking for help. So if he could play, they would have kept him. Matt Hennessy, Thomas and Dan Quinn were trying to play him at left guard, but he couldn't move anybody. So Raheem and them not playing with him. They're like, he backs up he gets like one play on special teams now. So, if you can't play, he's going to coach football. He's going to let, and if he gets a GM, he's going to let them get the talent. And, whatever he's got, he's going to come up with a game plan to win that this week. So ain't nobody blown the Falcons' door off in the 9 games that he's been here. They have, Detroit at the end looked bad. You can't do nothing with the 6, defensive back out there covering Antonio Brown. I mean, that ain't his fault. So he's done a good job, whether he gets a job here or somewhere else. He's done a good job with what was left on the cupboard. And I think for the fans, all the Bird Gang and all those fans and 2.0 and stuff, the problem they made was giving Dan Quinn too much power as the co-team builder. Well, he ain't never been the head coach before. But Arthur wanted him. I found all this out today, on the record. 3 other teams were trying to get him, so they had to, give in to some of his demands, which was one of them was control of the 53-man roster, which, and he had more sway on the players they picked it, which explains, some of these misses. Vic Beasley was a miss now after 5 years. Tack McKinley, the personnel people didn't really want him. They knew he had problems, physical problems and personnel culture problems. He wasn't going to fit, and so Dan Quinn had too much power in picking the players for a first-time head coach. He should have just been worried about coaching. Maybe he'd have ran the ball on 3rd and 1 instead of worrying about who to draft. So, hopefully they won't make that same mistake this time around.
Oh, that's like shots fired. Shots fired. Oh my gosh. Well, look, at the end of listen, Sam, you've seen it. Go ahead.
I know. I mean, and what he's saying is absolutely true. It is true, and it's been very difficult to watch. It's been very difficult to watch week after week and see it. And you see, 1 week maybe they're going to come out and get it together. And after Coach Raheem took over, you saw a little different energy. He was making some people uncomfortable in the locker room, which they needed. Some people needed to be made uncomfortable, and you saw a little more on the field. And then you get to the Saints games, and they throw a gadget quarterback out there on you. Also, you don't take care of Matt Ryan, too. So, I mean, when you got those two things happening, and I think those are the things that make us feel bad. You want to see them go out and play better. They played better in the second game, but you would hope at least they see them split those games with the Saints, find a way to win one of those games. And it just didn't happen. And here's another game that gets away in the fourth quarter. Is Brady doing what we've seen Brady do so many times before this past week in Kansas City? D-Led, Brian, I don't know what y'all expect this week out in Kansas City, but you know what you're going up against. You think, but here's a question: will they bring Eric Bieniemy back? They found a way to get him on the plane and bring him back.
Yeah, that's well, I was texting Eric last night during the game.
I
said, EB, they're coming for you. This is I was like, this is that Super Bowl. Y'all better be ready. So let me see what
So Brian, let me ask you while D-Led's getting some of his notes here. So let me ask you a question. So what have you seen from some of the younger guys? Because I know there's been we saw a good energy from some of the younger fans with Atlanta United. There's been a big buzz around Mercedes-Benz Stadium because of the vibe. What have you been seeing from kind of like the under 40 crowd to the reaction of this team and which direction they think they should go?
They just want to see this team lose out and have as high a draft pick as possible. I think and what I've seen on social media is people want to move on from Matt Ryan, and obviously that's not going to happen because he's going to be with the team next year. Based on the salary cap situation. But they want either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields because of that Georgia connection, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't know what the Falcons are going to do in terms of who they're going to draft with their first-round pick because we got to see who they bring in as a general manager. But I go back to when I was covering the Packers. When they hired Brian Gutekunst as a general manager, I knew that in the next 3 years when he was GM, they were going to draft a quarterback at some point, and they did it this past year with Jordan Love. They're not moving on from Aaron Rodgers, especially the way he's playing this year, because he's likely going to win MVP. But they knew that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there forever, and they have to build for the future. So I think that's where the Falcons could go. They could look at a quarterback if they like someone in that top 5 range, which is probably where the Falcons are going to pick. They probably will go in that direction. But, as D-Led mentioned, they are so depleted in talent. They could go in a number of different directions. They could use a running back. They could use an offensive lineman. They could use definitely an edge rusher. So, but I think what the fans want is to see them draft another quarterback and build for the future. So They're likely going to lose to Kansas City. They're probably going to lose to Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay still has something to play for at the end of the year, and they want to see who they draft, whether it's number 5 or number 4 overall.
D-Led, what's been the buzz you've been seeing? Obviously, we know the Falcons are going to probably draft somewhere between 1 and 6. Kind of what's the feedback you've been hearing about who they're kind of be looking at this point?
Yeah, the Russo kid out of Miami, the defensive end, he didn't play much. Linebacker Parsons out of Penn State. Like Brian said, the fans want him to get the quarterback. And there's reasons why. They're not selling their tickets. The PSLs are being defaulted upon. And Blake knows that the trade up from 5 to number 1 in 2001 energized the whole franchise. They did it before when they were traded up to get Michael Vick. So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to be sitting there. Jacksonville probably ain't trying to trade. So, they got 10 picks, $76,000 in salary cap money. Everybody really wants to go to Jacksonville. That's going to be the best. I mean, that's the job I'm taking if I'm looking at it. I got Trevor Lawrence. I got $80 million. I got 10 draft picks. I traded Yannick, and I traded Jalen Ramsey. So I'm loaded. And that's going to be a problem. So, but if you can trade up to 1 and get Trevor, or some drafts have you sitting at 5 and getting Justin Fields. So, you can bring him in and have him watch. Because he needs to learn how to. We're seeing Ohio State kid in Washington struggle, and reading defenses and playing fast. Because you're in the Big Ten, you're playing slow. He's throwing a wide open receiver.
Yeah.
Playing Indiana and Illinois. He ain't really playing no fast football up there. So you got to teach him to read. You got to teach him the speed of the game. Just what Andy Reid and Eric did with Patrick Mahomes. They set him for a year. And Alex Smith taught him the game. So the Falcons come back, let Matt and Julio make another run at the Super Bowl playoffs for a year and get Justin ready to go the year after that. Or, 2 years. Aaron Rodgers set for almost 3 years, right, Brian?
Yeah, it's about 3 years.
3 years. So, they picked him in the 17th first round. Alex Smith went 1. He went 17. So, if you want to develop the quarterback the old school way, go on and get him now.
Yeah, and you think about this, and Sam, we all have been watching this whole, and D-Led, you talked about it the last 3 or 4 weeks, that the Falcons are so constricted by salary cap. You just got to tell people, I said the truth, folks, they're not going to be able to just jettison these 2 guys without taking just a brutal hit, which will handicap them even further. So the idea is, again, if you can, I don't know, do you want to go all the way and trade up and mortgage the future? But what I saw, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, I don't want to compare it to Virginia Tech against Florida State when Mike just was, so unbelievable against really one of the dominant teams in college football history. But Trevor Lawrence, when I watch him on the field against top quality candidates as far as defenses, the guy just looks silky smooth. Like he doesn't, feathers not ruffled at all. He can sling it around. He seems to know exactly when to run. And to me, that's the guy.
Yeah. I've been watching him since Sam and them been showing his 8th grade highlights. I was like, oh, this kid can go. I was trying to recruit him to come play Little League at Smyrna if he had any little brothers and stuff. So yeah, man, it's good to watch them kids grow up and blossom. And he showed some speed running that ball last year too, because I was just talking to my buddy in Philly, and he's like, yeah, you can't get a fence anymore. You can't get a line to protect the guy. The quarterback's gonna have to get out of there. They can't even hold for 3 seconds no more. So, you see mobile quarterbacks. See Jalen doing a good job up there in Philly right now, whereas Wentz was, forcing everything and running for his life all the time, or getting hit a lot, basically.
We said Deshaun out there in Houston, having a pretty rough season, but we know what he's capable of doing as well. Are we seeing more of the coach the philosophy of the NFL coaches adapting to the talent that's coming out. For so many years, they would say that's not an NFL quarterback. That's not an NFL quarterback, a guy that moves. It seems like you hear less and less of that now. Maybe people following the lead of Andy Reid, being able to adapt and modify what they have, what they consider for the talent that's coming out of school.
Yeah, Sam, I talked to Greg Knapp 2 weeks ago, Falcons quarterback coach. He runs the quarterback station at the combine. He's ran it for the last 20 years. So he's seen the change come up from the high school ranks to the colleges, where these kids are playing 7-on-7 camps. They're throwing so many more passes. And then they can throw them from the pocket. They can throw them on the move. And so all we're seeing is these guys come up through the college ranks and into the pros, where, if the pockets, just standing in the pocket doing 5 and 7 step drops, everybody's not doing that anymore. And and we were talking about Justin Herbert, the kid at San Diego. He can move, but you saw him throw that bomb the other night. You saw him throw that bomb to Guyton to beat the Raiders. So, that's deadly. If you got to worry about him moving and he can launch it 60 yards on you, you're in trouble. So we're seeing a lot of those kids come up through the ranks, and we got a couple of them right here from Georgia.
And Josh Allen out in Buffalo doing the same thing. You got a guy the size like Ben Roethlisberger. He really, when I look at Josh Allen, he kind of reminds me, not as athletic, but he kind of reminds me of Cam, a big body guy, a big arm that can, it's very hard to bring him down, even with your hands on him. And so it's just, I don't know, man. When I watch the Falcons, it looks like I'm watching 1998. I mean, it's just, everything seems so archaic. The play calling. I mean, and then the other thing too is, D-Led, you pointed this out several times, match arm. You call all these plays, you got a 7-step drop, and you want him to throw the ball 40 or 50 yards downfield, and that's not his strength.
Well, Matt is accurate. He's not going to miss.
He is.
They built this team to kind of model the Colts. They tried to copy Bill Polian. And in the pocket where he could step up, his arm is plenty enough strong. But when he's running around, he's got to fling it without his base, then, that's when you start the ball coming out late. He got hit too much. Now he's foggy and the ball's high. But if you can't protect them, it's going to be a problem. And they know that. They told it to me. I'm not making it up. They're like, hey, if Ryan could plant his left foot and step into his throws, they go to the playoffs. When he's running around for his life, they don't go to the playoffs. So I'm fine with Matt, but you better get him protected.
Now, speaking of that, is there any thought about, well, I'm sure they're going to bring a different offensive coordinator that could maybe put the game more towards his talents. Now, as much as I know Matt doesn't like to roll around, the one thing I can say about Kyle Shanahan is he seemed to really put the team in positions where they could win and make big plays consistently. Even when he had Matt roll out, I remember a lot of times Matt was able to get a clear view of the field, and they had players wide open. The windows they had to throw in the Super Bowl year didn't seem to be anywhere like the windows I'm seeing now.
Well, the problem was why Matt and Kyle fought like cats and dogs that first year and even the second year was Matt doesn't like to turn his back to the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
So when you running that stretch bootleg, you gotta turn your back. He doesn't like to do it. So Sarkisian wouldn't let him do it, and Carter doesn't have him do it. They ran one last week against the Bucks. They ran a bootleg. He comes out, and Luke Stocker, of all people, gets a 22-yard gain. So it works. So at some point, Matt's got to say, okay, this works. I got to do it. And you get a Shanahan disciple in here, or Gary Kubiak guy, or somebody from the Houston, San Francisco tree, and put Kyle's offense in. He's running. They're trying to run the Dirk Cutter, Air Coryell from like 1970, which I'm fine with. But I need Wes Chandler, John Jefferson, Kellen Winslow, and all them cats that was running it with. And I don't have no problem with Dirk, because I think if you got blocking, kind of hard to run any offense when you're giving up 6 sacks and 18 hits in the game. So I don't think that's got nothing to do with Dirk or the quarterback.
Well, we certainly are going to see, man, what this team is made of next year, because there are going to be some drastic changes. I think that the Falcons are going to bring or find some way to bring some personnel. I think it's going to be just like Matt said a few years ago in the Super Bowl year. He said there's going to be a sense of urgency. Even though Mr. Blank has to kind of step back a little bit, I think all these guys know that, hey, we got to do something, or even just for their legacy. I mean, Julio's, we know he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Matt's a guy that's looked at. I think, Brian, guys in your camp probably think like, but if you look at his body of work, if this guy had won the Super Bowl, he'd be basically a pretty good shot to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the people that I've noticed on social media, they really don't look at Matt Ryan as a Hall of Famer, even though he has Hall of Fame numbers, because I think when his career is all said and done, he's going to be in the top 10 when it comes to passing yards, passing touchdowns. He's won an MVP, Rookie of the Year. He has all the accolades except for that Super Bowl ring. And I think he's not as flashy as some of the guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, or even Peyton Manning when he was playing. I think in order for him to solidify his status as a Hall of Famer, he has to win a Super Bowl, and they came close to that in 2016, but we all know what happened there. So I think in order for him to be considered a Hall of Famer, now he could be voted in by the senior committee down the road, even if he doesn't win a Super Bowl. But I think he has to get that Super Bowl ring for fans to consider him as a Hall of Famer, because again, he has the numbers, but I think for a player like him, he has to win a championship.
Eli, what do you think about that? About Matt potential for the Hall of Fame?
It's another guy that's gonna come up right before him, and it's Phillip Rivers. Yep. They're gonna have the same amount of numbers. They want to think. They maybe Marty Schottenheimer's team would have won that one year if the kid would have fell down after he got the interception. But Phillip Rivers got numbers. A lot of 10s and 6s, 9s and 7s. Maybe he sneaks one in this year with the Colts. Maybe they upset the Chiefs or something and win one this year while he's with the Colts. But I had his people call me a couple years back and say, "Hey, we're just filling you out for Phillip Rivers." I was like, I don't feel it. So I don't feel him as a Hall of Famer. I'll look at it. I keep open mind. This is my 10th year. Being on the committee. This year be my 11th.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks. But yeah, for Matt, for some reason, I would be making the case. And I would start with the fact that what he came into, right, and where he took it to, made him a Hall of Famer. I mean, you got to remember, they were the 07, the quarterback going to jail, the coach just quit. You got a GM from New England who you hired over the TV. And you got a defensive coordinator named, Mike Smith. Didn't nobody know who Mike Smith was. And so, his first 6 years, he'd go to playoffs every year. Then he eventually gets to the Super Bowl. And, now we're in the final chapter here, and, we'll see how it turns out. But, I mean, that would be the case I would make to the committee.
Sam, what do you think? Matt Ryan, Hall of Famer, yay or nay?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Mm-hmm. And D-Led brought up some of the stuff that's kind of off the field. But, yeah, you have to remember what he came into. But also the fact that the Falcons, even with Michael Vick, and I know we go to any barbershop on the South Side.
Yes, sir.
But I'll still say, where's my back-to-back playoff trips? Where's my back-to-back playoff trips that did not happen until Matt Ryan came to this town? And so I got to give him that. I got to give him that he got to a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers, I think Phillip Rivers gets in too, D-Led, and he ain't been to a Super Bowl. But Matt has. And so I think Matt's a Hall of Fame. I think a lot of people look at some things and the number of, and it's sad to say because the 3 interceptions in the game a couple of weeks ago, he's been known for this guy to perform in the clutch in the second half and bring the team back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And more so in these years, he's coming back and coming up short. But early in his career, there were a lot of comebacks that resulted in wins, and that's not happening so much right now. But like you said, if you judge with a whole body of work and everything that's happened here and made Atlanta a part of the conversation, Falcons have never been part of the conversation. And during a good bit of the time that Matt has been here, the Falcons have been in the conversation, more so than Rivers in San Diego. They were never in the conversation. Maybe once or twice, but Matt has done that here, and I think he is a Hall of Famer. Some people probably throw some stuff at me for saying that right now because the way the team is right now, but I think he's earned it. We look at the whole body of work. I think he's earned it.
Well, I tell you, it's going to be interesting. I mean, again, if you think back at his first 7 years, there was no question that think about it. The guy had a nickname called Matty Ice. And certainly we can remember the game against the Bears where he threw that laser. We can think of the many times where they put him in that up-tempo, 2-minute offense, and that guy ran it down like clockwork. And, I mean, literally had the same kind of demeanor that I see with Trevor Lawrence. He looked like I'm in my element. And then it seems like, I guess maybe after the Super Bowl, maybe the year before that, Super Bowl year obviously was MVP year, but it seems like, I don't know, man, this team – let's face it, they have not been the same since quarter number 3 of Super Bowl 51. They just have not been the same team. So I don't know what they can do. D-Led, do you think that the Falcons could maybe even get a running back in addition to a defensive player that will allow them to do what Denver did? Now, obviously, you're talking about Denver has a Hall of Fame running back at that time, but to get somebody in here that could get Matt into the Super Bowl where he wouldn't have to win it on his own, that he could just be almost a game manager.
Well, you want that's their winning formula. That's what the Colts did with Edge and with Peyton Manning, and then even Denver with when Peyton went out there. So yeah, they got to get a running back, a functional running back. Maybe you don't need a 1,600 guy like Michael Turner back in the day. But you gotta have some running game. You absolutely gotta have some running game. And then just the numbers, it's 30 fourth quarter comeback wins and 38 game winning drives. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that in the 11-second game against Chicago.
I know.
Right.
I know.
He hit Jenkins up the field. Matt Bryan came on and won the game, and Lovie Smith was mad.
But that's what endeared him to this city. This young, because at that time, obviously being a young man, young gunslinger, the city trying to make this transition from Michael Vick, and he really, for the most part, took everybody's minds off it. He really came in and like you mentioned, D-Led, gave the Falcons fans something they weren't used to: continual playoff appearances, and like you said, Sam, constantly in the conversation. So. They're going to need to find their way back to that. Well, guys, as always, we're right about the end of the broadcast here. Appreciate all you guys for joining us. And you know how we do here on Real Talk Sports. There's no way that we let our guests come on the show without letting people know where they can be found, social media, websites, all that stuff. So, Brian Jones, first, you are on the floor.
Always appreciate it. I am the trending sports writer and entertainment writer for popculture.com. You can find my work at popculture.com/sports or popculture.com. I actually interviewed the 3 creators of the hit Netflix series Cobra Kai. Season 3 is coming out very soon, so I'll have some stories on that next week. So again, check out popculture.com to find out all the latest Cobra Kai news. You can follow me on Twitter. That's at @BrianJones_PC. And I'll also have a podcast called Always Football Season. You can go that wherever you get your podcast. And I also have a Facebook page for the podcast, which is facebook.com/Always Football Season.
Gentlemen, when I grew up, I'm going to do that. See, he got all them. He got a lot going on there, Mr. Jones. Several pages. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of a guy that's everywhere himself, a man that is known for both radio and TV, Mr. Sam Crenshaw, now the floor is yours.
Wow, and I just found out I got another assignment earlier today. I
told you.
On Facebook at Samuel Crenshaw, on Twitter, Instagram. Well, on Twitter at Sam Crenshaw 23 and at S Crenshaw on Instagram. 92.9 The Game. Hey, everybody, join me Christmas Eve. Once you do whatever you're going to do, I'm on from 7 till 11. And during the 8 o'clock hour, Big Hugh Douglas is going to read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." So gather everybody around the radio. I hope D-Led, I hope he don't have a cup of whatnot sitting next to him while he reads it to us.
Oh yeah.
He's going to read "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Chesley McNeil is going to do on the track "Santa Claus" for us. And Timothy Miller, the man who sings at the 7th inning stretch for the Braves, will join us, and he probably sing a little "Silent Night" for us or something there. We're gonna do a little different. Clark Kellogg gonna come on and talk some basketball with us. We're gonna, but that's coming up.
Well, Sam, you might need to get a live streaming producer to come in. I'm just saying I'm available just in case. All right. Well, last but not least, the guy that always is our anchor man, D. Orlando Ledbetter. The floor is yours.
Well, folks, you can find me on Twitter at DOrlandoAJC. Bookmark our work at AJC.com on the Falcons page. The Bowtie Chronicles podcast is dropping tomorrow at 8 a.m. with a interview with Rich McKay. Get you all set up for this coaching search and general manager search. And, of course, you could follow us on our Facebook page, Atlanta Falcons News Now. Thank you, Reverend.
What it is, guys, we have the best and the brightest here in the Real Talk Sports Show. That's our commitment to you. We thank all those of you who watch the broadcast, however you do it. First of all, we want to give a big shout out, as we always do, to those watching the replay on Periscope. Thank you so much. Also, thank you for all those of you watching on demand on YouTube. I know a lot of you guys go back after the fact. Thank you for that. And we also, of course, mad shout out to everybody on Facebook, especially the Facebook groups. I got to do this. My hometown, the little housing project I grew up, they have their own Facebook page called the Washington Bills Reunion. Thank you for letting me sharing. And also my alma mater, Brian McMahon High School. Thank you for letting me share this on your page as well. You see, your alums doing some stuff. And so we appreciate everybody again for letting us be a part of your lives. A lot of you guys hang out with us on Tuesday. Some of you guys hang out the whole duration, the whole 90 minutes. And again, we appreciate you and got mad love for each and every one of you. All right, guys, we appreciate you for joining us, and we look forward to having you guys back with us again real soon. Brian Jones, peace out. D-Led, peace out. All right, guys, as you know, we close every broadcast the same way. We want to make sure to let you know that, in fact, you always see down there, you say, why does it say Minister Jonathan Simmons? Well, in fact, I am a real live minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you know that the week of Christmas, I am not going to let you go off the air without asking this simple question. Do you know why Jesus is the reason for the season? It's not just this little baby born in a manger. There's a reason why he came. Jesus, who I'm going to use his government name, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus, the anointed one, the Christ, he came to earth for one simple reason: to basically save men from his sins, from their sins. And what do you mean by that? Well, basically, the wages of sin are death. So anytime we do something wrong, technically speaking, we should be up for the death penalty in God's eyes, because he is completely pure and spotless, and all sin is an abomination to him. But the good news is he sent his son, Yeshua HaMashiach, a.k.a. Jesus, to earth to live just like us. And not only live like us, but go through the same stuff that we go through. So he was hungry, he was thirsty, he had to deal with his parents, he had to deal with brothers and sisters, all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, he lived this life in a sinless way so that he could be the ultimate sacrifice for our sins, that he could pay the penalty that none of us really could or want to pay, that he would do it one time, die on the cross, the most horrific death ever. But the good news is he was risen from the dead. And when he got raised from the dead, he took with him all that power that sin used to have over mankind. So the only thing that man has to do to get right with God is this. Number one, you got to repent of your sins. Number two, believe that Jesus did this, that he died on the cross for you and that he is risen from the dead. And number three, this is the easy part, go tell somebody that good news. And voila, you, sir, you, ma'am, are now born again. And what that simply means is you are a full-blown citizen of the kingdom of heaven, number one. And number two, and this is the great part, you are now an adopted child of God, not just a creation of God, a child of God with all the rights therein. That means that you get to call God Father, Daddy, friend. Jesus is like our great big brother. And guess what? He always is sitting next to God, pleading our case and being ready to help us when we need him. All we got to do is call in his name. Now, how cool is that? And, more benefits are coming. If and when we die, we get to go to the happy place called heaven, where guess what there's none of? There's no pain, no pandemics, no politics, no bad people anywhere. You never get old, you never get tired. It's always sunny. And for those of you who like bling, plenty of it in heaven. Every single building is adorned with the most beautiful jewels you can think of. As a matter of fact, the gates of the city, all 12 of them, are one giant pearl. And the streets are paved with a gold that's so pure, it's translucent. That's right. And the most beautiful thing of all, we get a chance to be with God and be with Jesus all the time. We don't no longer have to pray because they'll be right there. We can just go ask them and talk to them. And we avoid the unhappy place called hell, where all those things that are not in heaven are going to be in hell. Darkness, no light, pain, problem, bad people everywhere, and hot. Beyond your belief. Now, how about you? But I like door number 1 and not door number 2. Everybody, listen, I hope you enjoyed our broadcast. I hope you enjoyed all our guests. Thanks again to everybody that joined us. LaTresa Cunningham Doleman. Actually, with LaTresa Doleman. Love her, the queen. She's going to be part of our regular broadcast. Thank God for her. Thank God for Brian Jones. Also, guys, been with our broadcast for a long time. Sam Crenshaw, one of the great legends of broadcasting, sports broadcasting here in Atlanta. I think he's actually even won a couple of Emmys. And, of course, the D. Orlando Ledbetter, the man who's on the scene covering our Atlanta Falcons. And we thank God for each and every one of you. Again, thank you so much for watching. However you go ahead and watch it. You can follow me. Let's see. I got to do my thing, right? Follow me on social media. Let's see if I can find it here. You can follow me at Minister J. Simmons. If you want to follow me personally, let's pop it up here so you guys can see it. Bam, there it is. You can follow me on social media at Minister J. Sim. What I try to do every day is put something inspirational on there. So hopefully you can get something that will empower you to help you make it through the day. Or you can follow the show itself at Real Talk Sports #7. You can follow us there on Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter. And also we are on YouTube. We have a YouTube page called Real Talk Sports TV. Hey, want to go to social media real quick here. Here we got a comment on social media. Let's pop it up right here. We got our man, affiliate man. He said, Matt Ryan is done in Atlanta. Sorry we didn't see that a little bit earlier. Yeah, at some point he might be done, but it's really going to be difficult to get rid of him in any expedient way because of the great salary cap impact. So look for Matt Ryan to be around for a while yet. And again, but I do think the Falcons will have to do anything they can to get themselves a premier quarterback, and a quarterback that is a overused word, dual threat. What that simply means is we're not looking for the guy to be Lamar Jackson, but we do expect him to be able to move around the pocket. A.K.A. like a Josh Allen, A.K.A. like what we have in Kansas City. So, this is what we want. Somebody that can kind of move around a little bit and be able to avoid pressure. If you watch Mahomes in the game the other night, what you saw, not a quarterback that necessarily was going to be running for yardage to get, make big plays, but his ability to keep drives and plays alive. Matter of fact, to turn a play that really was dead in the water into a gainer. I watched him a couple of times circle out of trouble where he should have been and by anybody else would have been sacked. But Patrick Mahomes was able to get out and during that scrambling, able to move players into areas where they have been covered the whole time for 6 or 7 seconds by a good defense, but by him scrambling and moving players around, was able to find players downfield and make plays. And then if you neglect him, he has the ability, the speed and the strength to run and pick up not only key yardage for first down, but sometimes to pick up 10, 15, 20 yards before he slides. Not taking anybody head on, he slides. So that's what the name of the game is right now for the NFL. It's the same thing that you see in high school, same thing you see in college. A quarterback has to be able to dictate the game offensively from his position. He has to be able to change the tide of the outcome of the game by him making plays with the ball in his hand, whether it be running the ball, whether it be scrambling to buy time to make a pass or to just hitch it up, baby, and throw it on a 60-yard bomb when it becomes available. But the bottom line is he has to be able to control and dictate that game offensively from his position. And that's what the Falcons are going to get in the draft, whether they decide to trade up to go to a Trevor Lawrence, which would be, to me, again, these two, I don't want to do too much hyperbole, but it would be a ground-shaking thing equivalent to what happened when they got Michael Vick here in Atlanta. Let's go back to social media one more time before we sign off for the night. Once again, we got affiliate man. Yeah, Matt's got no arm strength. The thing about that Matt Ryan runs into a problem is that because the offense, he has players that are geared for the big play. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, these all are guys that can stretch the field. And unfortunately, what's happened to Matt is that the way they set the plays up, a lot of times he somehow now these last year or so, because he's been hit so much, he has to hitch. Matter of fact, that's why he overthrew, I think it was Russell Gage in the game yesterday, because he and then cranked up again. The great quarterbacks today, you watch them, they have the arm strength that when they go back, it's one and gone. Not one, bring it down and hitch it up and go. And that's what Matt does. And that's why I think sometimes the timing is off. A lot of these big plays is because he does this hitch and he can't do it. NFL today is like when those players break in that seam, you have to throw the ball and hopefully hit them on the run so they can make a big play after the catch. So look forward again to the Falcons bringing those types of players in here. And again, look forward to us bringing you good quality guests as we do each and every week here from the Lockdown Living Room, baby. Because that's what we are. We call it the Lockdown Living Room, and we welcome you to our broadcast. We thank God for those of you who tune in to watch us each and every week. Well, we got to go. Remember, follow the show on social media at Real Talk Sports 7. Please, ma'am, please do. And again, follow me personally at Minister J. Sim. All right. Until the next time. One more comment here from social media. Here we're going to go to someone from on Twitch. Oh, there we go. Someone trying to do an advertisement. As always, something crazy going on. All right. Like I said, until the next time, God bless you and have a good night. Be safe out there. Oh, Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.